Okay, diary listeners. This is the third and final phase of the Phoenix. We're calling this the Resurrection, part 3 of our time with Sabrina Mati. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Sounds like you have a lot of artists to kind of tap into in the tattoo community already, which I did.
The ones that I've been actually making friends with recently, like yourself, are it's interesting because I've had those people, but I'm getting so much more out of the people I've just been recently meeting, like you.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Cause it just, I don't know. It's nice to connect with people. Cause I feel like those people, they were working in it for a while and then they're still staying to their thing. Whereas there's people like you, you're still talking about the culture and you're keeping that prevalent and relevant as well. And you're insightful about it. Whereas some people are just they just do it. And then that's their job. You know what I mean? So I like that. Recently I'm talking to people like you where you have insights about it and you have history and you talk and you like to study, the whole culture and the ins and outs and the experiences and everything. And I like that you have this podcast. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's so up my alley too.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a lot like yours, only, focus on just entrepreneurship. And mine's I too, going back to what you were talking about the schools, I feel like there's something very integral and very necessary about having an apprenticeship. I did not find I didn't find that collegiate, see, that was a regurgitation for me. That was where I felt like I was being taught a bunch of stuff I had already learned before. Cause like you, I went to a magnet program for art in high school, which, it sounds like that, the art school that you would have gone to is what I went to, that buffered my portfolio and everything to go into college. And so when I got into college, I was just like, God damn it, when are you going to teach me how to do this as a living? I want to do this as a living. They just keep trying to teach me art. I know how to do art now.
Yes.
Can we move on? How am I going to sell this? And I honestly
told people, I learned so much in my internship that I did all 3 years of my college.
Yep.
So much. And you don't learn that.
What I learned in my internship, I did one, and it was with an illustrator. And I think the thing that I took away from that the most was the workflow. Because she worked out of her home. She did illustration. Her husband was actually her art manager, her what do you call them? I guess just the manager kind of guy. He was the liaison in between and worked all the deals and the numbers and stuff. And then they had 2 children, one that was severely disabled. And then another one that was the youngest, but she was so cute. And they had this life that I was like, there's love here. Everybody respected each other in that household. Everybody saw each other. Everybody was kind to each other and giving and communal, and just all you felt in that space was love. And it was so cool. It was really funny because I did whatever they asked me to do, but they, I was welcomed into their home, and I got to see how they lived and how they combined. And they lived in this beautiful house, right next to Annapolis, on the water. It was this gorgeous home, and they would break together and all have lunch together. And then they'd go off and have their own spaces in the house. And I loved that the father called his daughter Buddy, hey buddy. And there was just, and their cat, they had a Siamese cat, which Siamese cats are really uppity. As far as personality wise, they tend to be This cat was like a noodle. Like this little girl who I think she was like 7 or 8, like she was not old, could just hold this cat and it would just go like limp. Like it loved her so much. And would like, and I was just like, dude, this whole house is full of what I want my life to be. Like I want something that looks like this, that feels like this. And, you know, I always thought I wanted to do my art for a living. What I didn't realize is that, like, no matter what I do, like that's the lens I see it through. Like I'm going to be an artist in whatever expression. Just that's the way I see the world. That's kind of who I am. But like the way I want to do my art, the way I want to express myself, the way I want to connect to people, I always want that love there. Like I want that, because it cannot be. I just hate it when it's cheapened. I hate it when it's doesn't feel good. Like, and it's forced. I just don't like it.
That's what, for me, I mean, I'm sure for everyone, what college feels like. You just feel like you're being, like, again, pumped through a machine, and just like drill sergeant type of, like, you know, militarized, like kind of environment. And that's, you carry that with you into whatever company you work with and everything. Like, I like that you said, like, you saw a workflow. Like, I noticed when I did get my first internship, I did notice a little bit of a difference compared to like college. I was like, my college life is harder than what I'm doing right now for my job. Because in college, like, especially with me, because my mom told me I always had to take all 5 classes at once, you know, and that's what we were used to all of our lives. We take freaking 6 classes at once. And we have homework for each class and everything. We have no playtime whatsoever. No. And it was like college was, again, harder for me because like art projects are not the same as academics, you know, like study time isn't the same as art projects because you don't know how long an art project is going to take. Yeah. And if you're going to come across mental blocks with it, or creative blocks with it. And I battled that with all of my classes at one time. And I was just like, dude, this is a lot. And then when I got my first internship and my first job, I was like, this is so much easier than college. What the hell? It makes no sense. Why did they do that? But you still do get that, like, you carry that, like, drilled kind of with you when you work for companies. You know, you're always carrying that whole, like, we're all like pumped through a machine, you know.
But I feel like that's what it prepares you for, is more of like the company kind of rhythm,
lifestyle.
Yeah. And that's the thing about the schools. That brings us to like so I have an insider thing here. The schools is a gateway to making it an industry, because what ends up happening is schools usually work hand in hand with regulators. And they set certain standards that are not about actual quality. It's about limiting competition, honestly. And that becomes an ultimate gatekeeper. Whereas, you know, everybody likes to say that tattooing is gatekept. Well, individually it is. I can't think that you could say that now that there's so many damn YouTube videos out there of people like showing you how to do this stuff and breaking it down to you and trying as best they can to make sure that you're not hurting people as you explore things yourself. But I don't see that about the tattoo community. I see them wanting to keep the power with the people that actually do it and have lived it. They don't want to have the people who want to make this into a money-making bullshitty thing that's ultimately going to be about keeping certain kinds of people out. Because as you said, with your art, you know, education, you went to college, you had to pay $100,000 for that. You know, $100,000 is not accessible to everyone. And
I'm still paying it.
Right. And at the time when I was learning to tattoo, my first tattoo apprenticeship, not my first, my second one, he was going to charge me, I think it was like $250 or $3,000. And it was right after 2008. Nobody was giving out loans. I didn't have money. I was just rebounding from a bad relationship and a whole bunch of crap. And I was like, well, that's fair, but I don't have that money. And it morphed into him needing somebody in the space, and then was able to take me in there, and we worked it through me spending the time. And I worked there for free, just, you know, putting in the time. So we figured it out. But see, you can do that with an everyday business owner and with a person. Yeah, is it going to be, a lot more grassroots? So you're going to have to know yourself, or you're going to have to, really listen internally and listen to what, you need and you want, and move when necessary. Yeah. Is there not going to be somebody there to like tell you what to do every 5 seconds? Yeah. Like you're going to have to be a lot more in tune with yourself and what you want in order to do, an apprenticeship and really follow through with it. But at the end of the day, what you're going to be working with is people who are going to need you to be a Sherpa. They're going to need you to be able to walk them through all of their anxieties, all of their fears, all of their hesitancy. And you have to be the kind of person who can take all that on and carry out the task at hand. And so an apprenticeship is necessary for that, because if you don't have that kind of on-site kind of heat to your learning and that way of knowing yourself, you're not going to be able to decipher who isn't a good client for you, what workflow is good for you. You're not going to know shit. You're only going to know what you were told, and then you're going to need to find some next person to tell you what's going on. And, that leaves so much room for you just being a blind person. You might be following another blind person.
Yes.
So the point is that by doing apprenticeships, I feel you are forced into this necessary state of really responding to yourself and really listening to yourself and communing. Like I said, it's the ultimate with tattooing, because we do teach that way as of right now. I think with schools, if we did schools at all, I would appreciate it being something that was like a starter for getting an apprenticeship. Like, oh, you went here and now you're kind of cutting the fat of the kind of people who are asking me for an apprenticeship. Like I know that
my college, they prepped you for an internship.
Yeah, exactly. And that way, it's kind of a lead in. But, still, if we make that the standard, if we make that be the kind of thing that is required to be a tattoo artist, I feel like it will. I don't think it's going to produce great things, because I think that I love the accessibility of this craft to somebody who maybe just got out of jail, or learned to tattoo in jail. Like that's their one thing that they love. They found in the darkest of places. And now they have this thing that they can go and activate in the world that they're excited about, that gave them a light in a very dark place. And now they know what they want to do. If you take that person right out of jail and say, well, you got to pay $100,000 or whatever
for this degree,
in order to get your foot in the door. That sucks, dude. Like that really sucks. And I think it will remove all of the beautiful things that come from tattooing, because these Sherpas come from dark places, and people who are able to help you with, like you're saying, like your own psychological issues, your own troubles, they can do it because they have, like you said, the discernment to do that. They've been there, or they've been worse, and they know what you're experiencing, and they're a kind, non-judgmental space, because they know that if they had, if it had to be the other way around, they would want that kind of person, receiving them and everything. They need that kind of person. So for me, it makes sense to make it something where you find a person, where you click, where you get an opportunity, and both of you like hammer it together and follow it through to its end, whatever end that might be. But I think the lack of assurance is necessary, especially in art, because there is no assurance in art. Like we play with shit. Like when I start doing a painting, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. I just know that I'm making something, and I'm giving myself to that time and that experience, and I'm just seeing what will happen. And then what usually happens is really cool, and I never regret it. Even if it isn't what I planned out for it to be, or if it isn't like my best work, I don't regret that time. And I think that you have to have people that are willing to go beyond, like you said, that product, that thing. We're not producing a product. We're romancing the process, and we're doing this together. This is about two humans taking a journey together and really playing in a space where, one is guiding the other, but the other one's trusting the other. And it's really fucking cool. I think that will be lost with schools.
Yeah.
I do. And I can see them being like a segment for people who might feel like they're shut out a little bit, or they just want to kind of know the basics. And that's where their head's at, like everybody needs information delivered a certain way. But for me, having experienced both, I truly feel an apprenticeship is where it's at, no matter what. And even the abuse that you can incur during an apprenticeship, it makes you who you are, like it makes you capable of, like, if you've been even sexually abused within that space, you're going to be that much kinder to somebody else who's incurred that in their own world. You're going to understand how to work with that person and how to talk to that person and how to comfort them. It's a cross to bear. And it sucks, but like it's
or you're going to learn to see red flags in the future if it ever happens again, like where you can sense your intuition with like a certain client or a certain shop where like you work with people. Like if it's happened once, you're like, oh, red flags, I don't want this to happen again. And then you're going to see it, come again in your future. And you're going to be like, oh, this is no go. And then you're going to have discernment for that. And you're like, okay, I'm good.
Absolutely. 100%. I'm a little dense with red flags. I will admit it. I'm very,
optimistic.
I would, it's just the world I want to live in. Like, I don't, it's exhausting to think about all the different ways somebody's going to fuck me over. Like, it really is.
I have people tell me all the time, they're like, Sabrina, you like have too much faith in people. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like I don't know. I would rather have faith in someone than think that everybody's on one level and they have to prove themselves to me, like I'd rather give everybody a chance, and then if they can ruin that chance and fuck it up, that's fine. I'd rather let them like go there than assume the worst of every single person around, because that's living in anxiety. And I don't want to live in a world like that. And Absolutely. I have come across people, it's very interesting. Like I have come across people where they have showed red flags, and I observed it, and I'm like, okay, but let me see where I can go with this. And I still ran along knowing that there were red flags, but I shifted it because I held my boundary and my integrity. I held it strong, and I kept with my authentic self to these people. And what happened in the end is I just didn't become a victim of their whatever thing that they were going on with. And they were also able to see me as a person for who I am, rather than just another person that they could have potentially abused or come across and assaulted.
Me too, dude.
Yeah,
me too.
Or they end up liking you as a person, and you end up making friends with them, and you actually get to connect with them on I recently met an artist where he had a lot going on in his life and his upbringing and everything. And I felt like I was almost one of those girls where I feel like he thought he could take advantage of, but I just held my boundary, and I came at him as a person. I was like, I wanted to just talk to him as an artist. And sure enough, I could sense that he tried a couple times with me, but he gave up. But then he didn't hate me or turn me away. He actually liked talking to me. Yeah. And then it was nice to be able to at least have him vent, every now and then if he had troubles going on in his life. I was that person that heard the venting, and I didn't judge him for it. I wasn't there to judge him and his choices. I was just there to be a friend and be like, hey, this is probably not healthy for you. Just a suggestion. You don't need to take it.
Sometimes those people are really looking for somebody they can trust, and they're really at a point of fuck the world. A lot of them, I feel like it's not. It might not have had anything to do with you. I've experienced exactly what you're saying. Everybody was like, "This guy is a psycho," or "This person's like this," and I'm like, "You think that I don't see it? I do see what you're saying.
I'm not an idiot.
Right. I'm not an idiot. Like, yeah, I see all those things, but how can I walk away from this person? How can I walk away from that much pain and see it and not try to have some kind of compassion for it? Because I know I didn't do it. I know it has nothing to do with me and about me. And that's the thing about like setting your boundaries and and then pushing back at them when they push at you is like, sometimes people are just really looking for somebody who they know is stable and themselves, and they want something to believe in. And when you get a person that is so, like you said, has so much going on in their world, their life, they've been shit on a lot, they get very fuck it to the world, and they're at a borderline where they could shift. And that's where, like that movie, The Joker, when they did the analysis of the Joker, I met somebody like that. I actually dated him for a while, and I everybody warned me about him, and I knew it wasn't forever, but I was like, I can't be another person, because I'm pretty sure all it's going to take is one more person to let this guy down and disillusion him in the world. And that's not going to be good, man, because the amount of venom that you will have for life after this, it's not going to produce good things. I have to stay here. Like, I have to stay here, at least be the person that I am in this space. Like you said, set the boundaries, let him know that his shit's not going to work, here. And we're still friends and loving to each other to this day. And he saw himself a lot in that. And I think it helped him a lot, to the point where now he's kinder and he's accepted a lot more of his shit. And all I just needed was somebody who was willing to like be there and give him a reason to not give up completely about this life and this world, because everything up until that point had given him, no faith, no feelings of connectivity. And he is a kind of person that, like, if you say you're going to do something, do it. So what I imagine is he had so many people that just would tell him lines of bullshit and then not follow through, that he just didn't care anymore. He didn't care about anything. And so caring for him in that space really, I think, helped him. It was 3 years of my life and his, but again, I'm here to make some marks, man. So that's a mark that I made.
3 years. All of my relationships, literally all of my relationships have been 3 years. And I have always dated the same exact type of men, where they always like had this aura of negativity and like a stubborn outlook on the world. And they just like, people also warned me how they were, as a partner or whatever, or I've heard about their past. And they were always like these gloomy, like, either the gloomy, like, oh, I was a shit person in my past and like I could never be forgiven, or the people that were like, fuck the world. Yeah. And I knew I was to some degree abusing myself by staying, but there was something that I saw in them that, like, when I left, I didn't like break off bridges with them like most people do, like, fuck you, bye. Like, it was more of like, okay, I gotta leave for myself, for my sake, but like, I wish you all the best in life. And then I would always see after these relationships that these men would find their soulmate, and they would settle down with that person and they would completely change. So like there was my college ex, he, after we broke up, the next person that he dated he's still with her. And I remember with me, he told me he never wanted to get married. He's engaged with her. He like proposed to her and everything. Aww. And is married to her now. And then just recently, I have my recent ex and everything. He also was in a whole like, I'm a broken toy, blah blah blah. He had commitment issues with me, and I know now like he's in a relationship, and he seems like he's doing a lot more that he never did with me. So I'm like, that's good. Like that means that there's some improvement there, and I kind of like shifted their perspective. Like, not that I want to change people, but I like to like at least like hope for the best for people, and my current man, I told him, I'm like, you're the longest relationship so far, because we're coming on 4 years. And I told him, I was like, I've seriously thought forever that I was going to be alone forever because 3 years is always my number. Always my number.
Awesome.
We're breaking that.
Mine are getting, well, I'm with, yesterday was actually my 3-year anniversary with this one. And 3 years is when I start going to myself, can I do this forever? With the person that I was talking about, that was within the first year. I was like, yeah, I can't do this forever, but I can't leave either.
You know it, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know it, but you still stay around.
Yeah. Well, I've had other relationships like that. Mine vary. The longest has been 8 years. And that was, it was very cool though. Like, in retrospect, because I wasn't a great person during it too. Like, I learned a lot in that particular relationship. I learned to be very vocal. I learned that I did myself no service by withholding things that I thought would freak him out, like just to avoid a conflict. I was like, nope. Like, after that relationship, I was like, this shit went on for 8 years because I didn't totally show this person who the fuck I was, and I didn't allow him to annoy me enough or freak out enough to the point where I was just going to end it. It just went on in this very awful way for way too long. And we did ourselves a disservice. And I was just as much to blame as him. So I see that now. I always do. Like, within therapy, I was taught, like, hey, takes two to tango, man. Like, you can't walk away just pushing everything else on him. And, when you hear from the peanut gallery, the people who are watching, and they're only concerned about you whenever they're only looking at one piece of it. So they're like, you need to get away. You need to do this. You need to do that. Like, and I would hear all those things, but like, they're only looking out for me in that. And I know why I'm doing something. So yeah, I always try to analyze myself afterwards to try and hopefully get the new boyfriend, the better one. But this current one, same as your guy. I still want to be with him after 3 years. I'm like, I could do this. I could do this a lot longer.
It's like a manifestation of everything you've learned in like one person.
Yeah. And we're both big kids. We're both silly. We both, we both have very interesting inadequacies that are going to be life hurdles, I'm sure, for us to overcome, but that's great. But we work really well together. Really, really well together. And that's always been an issue. Because I like you, I thought I was going to be alone forever. I really thought I was broken. It's just too weird for most people, and too obsessed about something that is, unless you do it, or unless you have something compatible to it that you throw yourself into, and you have this much passion for something, you really cannot be with somebody who just goes to a job. Like, you really can't. I haven't found that with anyone, because like, you have to have a respect for how much, because there was always a competition with me and the people that I dated with my art. They always felt that way. Yeah. It was like, I don't know if it was an envy or whatever it was, but there was always this, like, you care, so much about this. And I'm like, dude, it's what I am. Like, it's what I am. Like, I can't, you wouldn't want me to stop doing this. Like, I would be a horrible shell of I wouldn't want to breathe. Like, if I didn't do these things, like, there is no competing with this. It's only embracing it. I'm like, I don't even know.
Dating an artist there needs to be not rules. There needs to be a book written about it, because I noticed, like, there, even just like the brief moment, like, or brief period, because I jumped from relationship to relationship, but there were little like downtimes in between that I did briefly date, like for like 1 or 2 months here and there with other people. And I did learn over time that being an artist is something that's very, like, admirable and very like shiny to people. Like they like go, ooh, like you can do that and that, like, oh, that's so cool. And it's always cool to be with an artist. It's always like, yeah, like, you know, my partner does this and this, and like they're so talented, and it's like, woo. But they don't understand, like, you have to nurture that. And it's a whole different ball game, like being in a relationship with that. It's like a roller coaster, and it's like, well, like you said, you can't want the person to not want to do their art or to keep them away from it.
Yeah.
You know?
And then you also have to realize that the public perception is not why we do it too. Like, you're excited about that because you feel cool by proxy, but we're not cool. We're fucking nerds. Like we're obsessed about something that like only we can really geek out about, that again, like you said, people find shiny. But like the guy that I was with for 8 years, I would constantly tell him, like, look, you can be a fucking amoeba and have a reaction to art, because that's how dumb it is. I'm like, you don't have to know anything about anything to love art. You know, you can just show up and look at it and be like, my God, I love this, and have an emotional connection, because that's where art hits people. I was like, dude, you're a freaking engineer. You're an electrical engineer. I'm like, the reason why people don't talk to you about is because they can't keep up, man. Like, you actually have to like be really fucking smart to keep.
Have you seen that show on, I think it's on Netflix, it's called Baconeering. It's when they combine a baker with an engineer. And cool. Together, like, the engineer comes up with the like engineering aspect of whatever they're creating, like, because they have to like create some sort of like functional contraption, but it's a mixture of like engineering and cake or like baking or whatever.
I'll have to check it out.
So funny to watch, because you see like the artists and how they are as people and everything. They're like really fluid and like woo-hoo. And then you see the engineers, they're like very nerdy with how they talk, to the point where the host like always looks so uncomfortable when they're talking to the engineers, because they're like explaining all these things, and the host is always like,
we're losing them. We're losing people. You're losing me. Nobody cares about that. Stick more glitter on it.
I love it. It's so funny. And I'm just like, wow.
That's the thing, is that art is so evocative, and that's the point of it. You know, we're kind of like, kind of the people who, you know, put that extra cherry on top, and it makes things really cool and really awesome. But again, like you said, like, there's no accolades for the engineers, you know, but yet they make these cell phones and all the things that we're doing this shit on, like the wires. He would make these wires. He knew how to make these wires. He knew how to connect them. He knew how to do all this shit that I consider fucking magic. Okay, like,
that's my dad in my family. He like when I broke my like Sega Dreamcast controller as a kid, because they were obsolete, they stopped selling them and everything, and my dad didn't want to buy a new controller for a system that's obsolete. So he like taught me how to go into the wire of the controller, and like he cut it open. He the like external thing and the covering, and then he showed me the little tiny wires that are inside, and he's like, I'm going to help you, like, I'm going to show you how to solder these. And he soldered them together, these little microscopic fucking wires, because he told me, he was like, this is the problem. He was like, in your wire, these tiny wires are ripped. That's because the way you roll and like store your controllers is no good. And he showed me how to fix that, and then it worked, and I felt so powerful, like, and smart. I'm like, wow, I just did this, and I fixed my own controller, you know?
Dude, it's a huge thing when you're able to hack stuff like that. And again, with tattooing and things like that, because if you're with somebody with any kind of age, they've gone through a gauntlet of different kinds of machines and phases of those things. You know, nowadays you might find somebody who's just going to start you off with rotaries right away, and then you can track it back, you know, afterwards if you'd like. But if you get somebody who's, you know, loyal to the coil, man, like, you're going to have.
There's like some people that are. There's some people who are like, no, you got it. Before you pick up a rotary pen, you have to learn the ins and outs of the coils. And I was just like, okay.
Well, I mean, I will say this, like, if what you love is line work, I think you'll really love a coil, because they the way they hit the skin for lines is just magic. It's really wonderful.
It's really saturated.
Effortless, really. It's really nice. So I think you will love them.
the piece on my leg is all done in coil and the line art, and I see a huge difference. It's a little harsher of a finish, but since it's such a huge piece, it doesn't matter because you don't need to do the fine line things, huge piece. So, but it's like freaking in there. It's dark, and I'm like, gee, that's gonna last a long time. Well,
and if you have multiple coils, you could have the delicacy. And the only problem with the coils is you have to set them up for each needle grouping. So that's why they usually stuck to a liner and a shader. But if you had like 5 different coils, you could set them all up with different variances of line, and you could do all those different tricky things if you want. Benefit to them too is they tend to be cheaper. As far as buying them and everything, it depends on the maker, but like you can, I mean, if you learn how to do all that stuff, your dad probably would geek out about it with you. And like, you never know, you guys could go into a family business where your dad engineers and makes all of these tattoo machines and that you use, your sister does it with you. She does the beauty end of it. And, your mom does the books. Fuck it. You got a whole thing.
Seriously, I need to talk to my family someday. I need to be like, yo, what are we doing with our lives? Because like I see family businesses and everything. There are some pros and cons because obviously like there's like you have to all be on board with it because there's always that one child in the family that's like, I don't want to inherit the family business. I want to do my own thing. And that's okay. Like that's what makes, independence beautiful and everything. But like, Jesus, if you're all on board, like imagine what you could do. I have always told my mom too, that when I get my own business someday, I want her to be my executive assistant.
There you go.
And I've always wished for my man to also be like some kind of manager for myself as well, because he's in the military.
Oh, right.
So he's like more of the like he's a mechanic, so he's more of the like logical like type of person.
Dude, that's perfect. Your dad and your boyfriend together, holy shit. That could be a whole thing, man. They'd be making all kinds of shit for you. I'm serious. This could be a thing. It could be really cool. Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down with them and we'll talk to them about it.
I mean, at least start the ideas like going and dreaming,
why not?
I mean, that's where I'm at with my parents. I think that you'll find if there is a walk away from the family business, it'll probably be the next generation. Because I think that, I don't know, I'm to the point, and it's a youthful thing to seek independence. I think now I want to collaborate with more people. I want to see what we can amass together. And, my family, I trust. I mean, we don't always, get along, but I trust them. I trust them a lot. We know each other's shit. We know how to call each other out on it and move forward. So it's fine. So that I know, but bringing all the pieces together, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It's fine. We're all pretty successful in our own right. So that's the benefit of it, is that as it stands right now, necessity is the mother of invention. I guess if we're all kind of put to our knees, we'll come together. Probably.
Yeah. It's nice to know that. Yeah. Especially during these times where I'm starting to think of like, because before I didn't care where I moved to. And now I'm like, no, I want my family nearby, because God knows like when the world is going to if the world will like ever end soon, you know what I mean? Because we're in like some weird times, and I'm just like, I've never actually had a moment where like I've thought about like, oh my God, I could die tomorrow because something like a war could break out at any moment over here or something like that. You know what I mean?
Some exciting news, diary listeners. We actually got a wonderful promotional code from Reinventing the Tattoo recently, and we're happy to share this with you. It's 10% off on a subscription to Reinventing the Tattoo. And if you don't know about this wonderful, wonderful service, it's continuing education for working professionals, very geared around tattooers. But I would venture to say that if you are looking to improve your art skills and have regular momentum to your creativity, creativity and to your own professional education. I can't recommend it enough. One of the prime people that you will be critiqued by and helped with and draw with and all of that good stuff is Guy Aitchison. And if you don't know about him, you probably should. He is a very, very pivotal person in our industry. I joined them for one exercise. I did a color study. I mean, Rico sat there and watched me the other night do a color study exercise with Guy and company, and it was amazing. I was flexing all kinds of muscles. It's just all around if you want to improve your art skills. I can't see a better way than hanging out with a lot of professional artists and seeing the kind of work that they do and the kind of exercises they work on all the time. It's www.reinventingthetattoo.com/The Apprenticeship Diaries. So again, that's www.reinventingthetattoo.com/The Apprenticeship Diaries. And that's going to save you 10% on your subscription. Go check it out, folks. I do know what you mean. It's not even that. But I do understand. Just yesterday when we were on our way back from celebrating, my boyfriend got word that an owner of a company that we know, he died in a car accident on the way to pick up his parents. His parents are from Pakistan and he's from Pakistan, but he lives here and he works here. And he was on the way to the airport to pick them up. Now, that broke my heart because these people were sitting there, they're waiting for their son who's never going to show up. His life ended in a moment where everything was in full speed. He had just been married for a month and
oh my God,
all of this stuff just stopped, and it broke my heart, and we were like, whoa, no. And just the gravity of that. And then I was like, for me, he's at peace now, hopefully, I hope. But all the people that are left behind is who my heart goes out to. And his parents, what do you do with like a kid of yours that their life ends early? And then, there's all these loose ends. There's a family business there. He's in another country. You're from another country. You were flying in town. Like all of this stuff was arrested. So that's the whole thing with family. And I hope when people listen to this, when they're thinking about COVID, is that it really is that fickle. It really can just end like that. And you don't need a war or COVID or any of these things that the optics are like giving you some kind of foreshadowing of what could be. A lot of times there is no foreshadowing. It just happens.
Yeah, it just happens.
And fuck, man. It's sad and it's over. And people just got to deal. Same thing with a friend of mine. Her son just passed away and left he just woke up one morning and sat there on the bed and his heart stopped. And he was a young man. He was a little younger than me and left a baby behind, a wife and his new kid and a business and his mom who oh my God, I haven't talked to her enough, but that's how quickly. And as I've gotten older, I've seen more of that. I mean, I've said it on the podcast before and I've said it to my friends, but I went to a 20-year high school reunion and there were people there that didn't make it, that we honored on that day, that we did a memorial. One of the guys walked out of his house, slipped, fell, and hit his head on concrete, leaving his house toast out, left wife, kids, everything. So, if you're not living your life and you're not pursuing happiness and you're not really do what makes your heart sing, because at any moment it could just not be there anymore. And when you're not happy or when you're feeling these certain ways, just stop and think about, just think about how precious this time is and how you're using it. And shift whatever you're doing, because that's the one thing I can walk away with psychedelics is that's something you realize when you're on psychedelics, well, I'm kind of freaking out right now, but the second you realize, okay, I'm on drugs, maybe if I just think about something else, as soon as you do, you're having a whole other experience.
Oh my God,
holy shit, I
wanna
control my
try
perception.
shrooms.
Yeah,
I
you would like them.
I've only ever smoked weed, and it gives me anxiety, unfortunately. But the one thing I've always like wondered is about shrooms, because like I know, well, one, they're like very natural. It's like literally from the earth and everything. And then I know like I like anything where there's a ritual behind it, where like there's a shaman and everything that can bless the shrooms for you and everything and guide you through this whole thing. Like I like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anything that's a little bit more like on the man-made spectrum, like no judgment. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think that's wise. You definitely get a much different experience with them, even if they're a nicer onset of like a high or a trip or something. The one thing that I will say for anybody who wants to experiment with psychedelics is, like any trip, it's better when you plan for a trip. So if you haven't gone there before, and if you haven't done this before, definitely have somebody who has, so they can tell you about some things to look out for. Best to do it with them, because they can help you through whatever you're dealing with and kind of reassure you. And then, like, they know how to plan for certain things. Like, when you're going on a trip, like there's people who are well-traveled. They know how to pack. They know what sites to hit. They know what's there and what's not there. So the same thing with like any kind of, mushroom experience. People who know how to do it, they know certain things. Like I've now realized that I don't want to ever do mushrooms again in the wintertime. Like I don't like feeling things dying, and I don't like being inside, which, kind of invokes you to do. And when I get cold, I don't want to move. Like I don't want to, like I get very sedentary. So it kind of paralyzes me. And I spent my entire trip on the floor, like finding every bit of a blanket that I just didn't move out of. I was like, I don't want to move. So I find that it's best to do trips like that because that's with mushrooms connect you more so than acid or other things. Mushrooms connect you with the world. Like it really helps you feel your surroundings. And, I didn't appreciate or really enjoy the connection. And maybe I would have had I gone out of my house, but it was very cold. I didn't appreciate it during the winter. And I found with somebody who told me, he's like, yeah, I don't trip in the winter. I only do it when spring comes. And I only do it when things are alive and moving and there's warmth. And I was like, okay, learned. That's probably why I had that experience. But like, like with all of these things, it's good to like, talk to people about what kind of experience you're hoping to cultivate, what you're trying to go into. For me, it's always great because I'm such a control freak that I kind of like being smacked around a little bit by it, because that's what happens. I always go into it thinking this is going to be amazing, which is dumb. Don't do that. I always like have apprehension about it. I'm always like, is this going to kill me? I'm the complete opposite. I never think that, which I probably should a lot more in life. I have just this raw tenacity about things. It's just like, fucking kill me. Like it's just weird. I don't know. I don't have enough. No, it's not. I don't have enough preservation. I don't have enough. For people who care about me, they're freaked out most of the time. And that's the thing, is they're just like, dude, you're fucking freaking us out. Like, could you just try to stay alive for us? Because we like care. Well, you might not care, but we care. So that's my issue. But yeah, like it's good to just like, it's wonderful to experience these things. I personally recommend an event or something like that that's choreographed around the purpose, where they know everybody's going to be on drugs. Like EDM festivals are great for that kind of experience. You wouldn't think so, because you think the social anxiety would be a thing, but it's not really. It's incredible because everybody's there for the same purpose. They're all there to pretty much be on drugs, be like this weird other thing for the day, and just commune and feel the music and experiencing it in this big, like, I don't know, energy kind of orgy kind of thing. It's really cool. Like you get to see minds kind of connect, because when people are moving to music in such a way, you can see how they're moving like flocks of birds that know how to move together and fly together. It's really, really cool. And then you're like, oh man, I get music more now that I've seen this. Like I get what music is even doing more, like what it's connecting with. It's so cool. Music's very key to tripping. I feel like it adds a lot.
I get a high to music without anything. Like whenever I go to concerts, I have this moment where like all of a sudden like dive into myself and I'm like, dude, I feel like this synchronicity amongst the crowd that I'm in, and it feels very magical. And you're just like, dude, we're all singing the same thing. We're all vibing with the same thing. We're all sharing love for the same thing right now at the moment, especially those songs that they have, those songs where everybody brings out their phones and their lights and everything. And they go like this, like those moments are so spectacular.
Yeah. Well, then
I live for those.
Well, then you're probably going to feel those like on excess with it. I never really connected those things just because I think I don't know. I am so me. The walls are so there that this is me, and I'm so an island that I like need something to turn that off in my brain. And when I do, I'm just open, and the floodgates, like that controller is off, and then all this stuff is received. It's really cool. But yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. But like either way, it's gonna be awesome if you do. I think that it teaches people a lot. And it's something that you don't, at least not with me, that I want to abuse, because it definitely, I don't know, I let it smack me around. And I learn a lot from it, but I don't think it's anything that you would just, once you do it once, you're going to be like, oh, I can see why people don't abuse that. I can see why that's not an everyday thing.
Yeah.
Well, and microdosing, I've never tried that, but I could see how that has its applicability for people with like intense anxiety or things like that, because it does, I don't know, it kind of, like I said, it connects you to your world in some way. Like it turns something on or off in your chemical responses.
I've learned that all like the herbal medicines of the world, like they're all teachers. So like, and they all teach something. So Teal Swan really goes into this really beautifully, where she talks about like the vibration of weed and everything and what it's supposed to teach. And she explains how why the people who get negative side effects from it, it's because their vibrational frequency is above weed. So that when they smoke weed, in order to meet the vibration of weed, they have to bring their vibration down to meet weed, which is why they get the negative side effects. And then there's people who have the lower frequency, where weed is like an aid to them. And to meet the frequency of weed, they have to raise their frequency to meet it, which is why they get positive effects. And they obviously weed like does serve a purpose, and a lot of it is the anxiety part. And I don't know, I think flow too. I notice people always have like flow when they like smoke weed or something, whereas without it, they feel like they're just like frustrated and stuff. So I feel like it serves a purpose.
I think it's an accelerant for me. I resonated with what you said there, though, because I found when 2020 hit and when I was kind of freaking out about everything, I really couldn't get high. Like I would smoke and then I couldn't get high because I was so upset and so angry. And so like, I don't know, like my body was just kind of like at this frequency, like you said, where I was not able to relax into the drug. I wasn't like my alert like buttons were like pushed on like way alert. So I just couldn't, like, I could barely, it didn't do what it was usually. And it frustrated me because I was like, I'm not getting from this what I want. And I don't even want to be low like this. Like, I don't even want to commune with it because my body is telling me that I need to be like on point and I need to be sharp. Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
I feel like maybe the plants are probably intelligent to some degree where it knows that, and it'll like maybe like, I guess like I don't know, adjust itself to your frequency where like it'll teach you that. Where it's like, no, you need to tune into yourself right now.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Dude, I am a person who will entertain almost anything because I think it's more fun than saying no.
That's why I even got into this stuff, because like especially the paranormal aspect, because I've gotten psychic readings because I had my psychic medium friend, and people are always like skeptical and they're like, psh, but I'm like, but wouldn't it, like, just hear me out. Wouldn't it be more fun if it was true? So why not entertain that? Like, what's it gonna hurt if you actually do entertain the idea? Is it going to kill you?
Yeah.
And then occasionally I would get the people that are like, oh yes, like don't even entertain that world, beyond the realm, because you're going to die. Like, you're going to come across a Ouija board and it's going to kill you and all this stuff. And you're going to summon all the demons. These people made me like, I actually have a Ouija board. I never had anything happen to me with it. I can't even use it. Like a few times I've tried using it. I'm like, this thing isn't working for me. What's wrong? And I'm still alive. I don't have demons or like some poltergeists in here or whatever. The most I've ever had in the spiritual community, or like the spiritual realm with the world beyond, is like I've had visions. I have had cool psychic readings where like I've had, my first reading was with like my grandmother who passed. Aww. And I knew it was her. I wasn't close with her. That's the thing. It was very interesting. And I knew it was her because my friend, who was the medium, she told me things that nobody else knew. Wow. And I was like, okay. I was like, so this is a thing where you have to experience it yourself, because otherwise it sounds like a bunch of baloney. Yeah. But I've also dived into the part of healing, because I've had I tell people this story all the time. People are always just like, oh, but like, it means so much to me because it's opened my eyes to alternative medicine. Alternative, that's what they call it, but it's like to a whole other side of medicine. Real medicine. Yeah, to me, it's the true medicine. Mm-hmm. But I've come across people where like, I had a very chronic condition for 3 years, and it started to debilitate me in work. Like, it was a condition where once pain flared up, I would be stuck in the bathroom for like 6 hours on end.
Oh my God.
And it was really, it was terrible. And like, if the pain started flaring up at work, I would get anxiety because I'd be like, oh no, like I need a bathroom like right now. And it's uncomfortable when you're outside. Yeah. So it got really bad. And doctors could not figure out what was wrong with me. I even saw specialists. I saw a Urogyn specialist. I saw my regular doctor. I went to urgent care every month, like twice a month. I was in urgent care because I was like, dude, I'm getting symptoms again. Dude. And they just gave me, because I thought it was a bladder infection. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was just like, I just got bladder infections all the time. Yeah. And they would prescribe me antibiotics all the time for the bladder infection. And then it took one doctor to look at my lab reports and be like, you've never had an infection. Whoa. But you're here a lot, so you should probably figure out what the hell is wrong with you. And I was like, so this entire time you guys have been giving me antibiotics every single month for something I never even had. Whoa. So I finally met.
Well, and that probably exacerbated it too, because if it killed all of your natural biomes in your gut, it probably eradicated good probiotics.
Microbiome.
Yeah, microbiome in your gut. It killed everything. So
and when I saw like when I saw the like a divine timing kind of thing, I ran into an old friend of mine, and he introduced me to this guru that he follows. Like everybody prefers somebody that they follow. Mm-hmm. And then I met I finally was like, all right, let me give it a shot. I went to a workshop. And I got a one-on-one with the guy because they got to randomly select 11 people out of the workshop to have a one-on-one with him. And I got a one-on-one with him, and I told him my issue, what was going on with me. Right. And he told me that the antibiotics definitely put some kind of entity in my body that was hurting my body. Right. And he also told me some other things that were happening with the organs or what. I don't know how he was doing it, but he was doing it. And I was like, he's telling me more than all the doctors ever did. So, what's it going to hurt? I'm going with it. Yeah. And I went from having pain pills every day to nothing at all. And I've been clear recently. It started flaring up a couple weeks ago, last month. It started flaring up just a little bit. And I started panicking, and I reached out to those same people who helped heal me the first time. And I asked them what was going on and everything. And they worked with me remotely. They can do their whatever their ability is remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And they worked with me for like 2 days, and I'm clear again.
Wow.
So I'm like, dude, why not? Like, I understand that people have to have these experiences to believe it. And somehow I still to this day get skeptical with this stuff too, because I'm like, I know it happened to me before, and I've manifested things too out of my life before. I'm like, whoa, that was magical. But you always still fall back into the whole like, but am I crazy though? Like, but really, I
mean, we're all stardust, dude. Like, we're all floating in what we perceive to be infinite space where there is no time, and that we're like a flea on the speck of a sand, whatever particle. Like, that's how small we fucking are. So like, it doesn't baffle me in the slightest, because if you can at least conceive of that, then you should be able to conceive of anything. And my mom, just like you said, she was talking to me recently about a woman that we met earlier. She was like, do you know if it was a woman, it was an esthetician that we had at our hair salon. She's like, do you know if Maria ever mentioned Alex, your therapist? I said, no. She said, well, I found a post where she only has like this Facebook page that she's never touched, but on it was her talking to Alex, your therapist. And Alex has been dead since 2018. And she was like, Maria knew her. And I said, well, they all kind of run in the same circles, holistic people and healers and social workers and stuff. They all kind of trade in the same kind of medicine, really. And I said, that doesn't surprise me. And my mom was like, she goes, Maria did this thing with me once. She's like, she was very weird, I feel, because she was very emotionally pricked by a lot of stuff that I just didn't understand. But she did tell me, she's like, she said that my gut was off. She said she could sense something in my gut that was off. And during COVID, my mom had a severe hiatal hernia that she apparently had her whole life, that had flared up to the point where her stomach and her colon were in her throat. And she, talk about elective surgeries that were not recognized during COVID, but that was one of them. Was her hiatal hernia surgery was postponed because of COVID. So she had to suffer for like another 6 months with this hiatal hernia that she had that was making her violently ill for forever. But she's like, she sensed, I thought she was freaking off her rocker when she told me that, because I didn't feel anything. But she was like, she felt it then. She felt there was something then. And I didn't ever know what the hell it was until I had this hiatal hernia, but she probably sensed it then. And she's like, I remember her telling me that my gut was off. And she's like, now, of course, now she knows she was right. But at the time. So yeah, there's a lot of validity to it. I don't know how they do it or not. I mean, my dad's a massage therapist, and we've worked with Eastern medicine and philosophies most of my life because he's done martial arts and massage. But like, when he was teaching me massage, and because I just know it on just by proxy, he would show me things. I'm a good massager because I can feel the tension. Like you learn to feel these areas of where people are bound up and this tightness that you can feel in their bodies. And if you know how to work it and you know how the body's comprised, you can release those things. So he taught me those things from a very early age, which, when you're growing up, you don't realize is rare, that most people don't know how to do that. And so when you watch people and you have that understanding about things and when people come to me and they're like, well, you might not believe in this. I'm like, no, you'd be surprised what I believe. I'm like, I've seen a lot of validity in some weird places that are not mainstream at all. So I was like, I grew up around massage therapists and, Reiki specialists, and I've met all kinds of different people. I put credence in all of it because I think that we're all comprised of the same thing. It's all energy. It's all, and I think that there are people who can, they've just learned how to be specifically attuned to those things and how to interpret them. Which again, coming down to like the whole school of thought thing, like and these ivory tower school kind of thing. It's the package paper that you pay for, but I don't know if they really teach you how to listen and how to really know yourself. You need kind of a guru to do that. You need somebody who's in the thick of it to really do it. I feel, not to say that they aren't going to be good at what they do or learn something about it. That's I think it's all cross-pollinated. I just wish they could all fucking like our families. I wish they could all work together.
Yeah.
And then we'd have like awesome success, but they won't. So
no, it's always powered by a different, it's powered by greed. And that's a whole different, corporate games are not fun.
Well, and ego too. Like, I'm right, you're wrong, or this isn't valid. And it's like, come on, dude. Like, it's all valid.
There's only one way. There's not multiple ways,
Yeah. Well, I mean, so how can people find you? You are starting your apprenticeship journey, so we're going to probably see a lot of that on your Instagram upcoming. But how can they find you, and how can they follow you, and in what ways would you, I don't know, like to be reached out to or anything like that?
So I guess Instagram is a big hub for a lot of tattoo artists.
Yeah.
My Instagram is at Sabrina Mati, MATI _art. I do have another, I have actually multiple accounts, but that's going to be the area where I post most of my art. Mm-hmm. I always tell people, if you're interested in following me as a person, I post a lot more stuff about my life in general on my other page, which is just at Sabrina Mati.
Okay.
I know it's not for everybody because people are just like, I just want to see art. And I'm like, okay, and then here you go.
Yeah.
That's like my portfolio.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's I have a Tumblr where I also post my art. I actually use that Tumblr as like a portfolio. Like whenever I send my resume to jobs and stuff, I just send them that link because it has like everything. And then also it has everything that I've worked on before too.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's just sabrinamati.tumblr.com.
Awesome.
I do have a YouTube channel. I've had two, but we don't do the podcast so much anymore for animation. We've kind of like all fallen off the wagon a bit since COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
But on my own channel, I think it's just youtube.com/Sabrina Mati.
Awesome.
And I do have like a little podcast on there that I have like 6 episodes up of already, where I do talk about the mental health aspect. Like I talk about metaphysics, spirituality, self-development, like anything that has to do with that realm. And there's like a chunk of episodes where me and a friend of mine, that psychic medium that I told you about, she's like a super close friend of mine now. Like she's like one of my best friends.
I love it.
But yeah, we've known each other for years now. We talk, she's a piano player. So she's also an artist, and she dances a little bit too. So she knows this realm as well as like, battling the blocks of being an artist. So we do have like episodes where we talk about breaking down the blocks of artist blocks and everything through mental health and self-development, and just learning how art is an extension of yourself and everything, and how to like dive into who you are more as an artist and as a person and everything. So
I'm going to listen to those for sure and seek them out, because the fact that she's a piano player, I just met my boyfriend's niece the other day, and she's going through a lot of anxiety and mental issues. She says she wants to get back into therapy, but most of them put her on medications that she's really like, that's giving her more anxiety. And she's a piano player. She said, piano is the one place where everything stops and the world is good to me, and I can be happy. And so I would love to, after the show, definitely like connect with you and find out your friend, and maybe give her her number or a way to contact her.
Yeah. And we would love to like, it's more of like my little podcast. I've just had her on like, cause me and her, we talk so well, but like we can go on forever about like existential stuff, like kind of like how you and I did today. We talked about like everything and like what it all means and everything. And it would be awesome if me, you, and her could actually chat for an episode.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love it. I would love that. And I would, like whatever way we can, like, bring all these, because like I said, if we can just mash all this talent together and all this coolness, then we got our people, man. It's good.
Yeah.
I also want to put you in contact too, since you're starting your tattoo journey. I just met, you might have listened to her podcast, but Krista Reed was recently, and she's in upstate New York. But she actually, after we did a podcast with her, she was like, dude, this is really amazing. I think I want to start a podcast. And she wants to do it all about like the healing aspects of it. And it seems like you guys are very linked with that. So I'd love for you to meet her because, if you ever want to do a guest spot or something, she co-owns, either she owns or she co-owns the tattoo studio, and they're always looking for guest artists. So it's a good connection to have.
Okay.
That, and she, you're all into the same stuff. So like, it'll be great for everybody. I
love meeting people in this realm. Like, oh my God, it's amazing. And it feels like you're finding family, you know?
Yeah, no, totally. And that's how we felt, like automatically. I love Krista, like just automatically, just remotely like this. That's how I know they can do their job remotely, because it's an added thing when you get to be in person, but you can feel a person by just interacting this way. I think is really cool. It's next level. I really like it.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. I don't want to take up much of your time because I do know you have to get to things in the rest of your day, but thank you so much, man. Like you have been a pleasure, and I can't wait to watch you and see what magic you create in this world, because I think it's going to be really awesome.
I can't wait to like update you too. I love the little support. Thank you so much.
Of course. I'm very excited. And I'll definitely let you know when all of the episodes are released and stuff. But thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to listen to all of your other episodes too. When I'm like listening to you chat and everything, I'm like, ooh, I feel like this whole entire podcast is like must be super interesting. Because I can only imagine like the different people that you have on and everything in the conversations. I'm like, this is really in depth. And I like that you said you don't have a structure, because I'm like, okay. Because I don't know. I feel like you just get more out of a person when it's like that,
That was the point. I feel like when you're dealing with the critique that I got, and this is valuable for the people listening to, and even him if he dares listen, but I think the critique I got from him is somebody who only has a certain amount of time to digest information, and he has a very regimented life, and he wants quickness to his absorption. His time is very valuable, and he doesn't want to waste it and be like, what is the point of this? But the point of it, at least for me, is meeting people. And I don't feel like that's something where you should be rushed in it. And I get that we're all trying to get down to brass tacks and everything. But when I'm listening to a podcast, I like feeling a person. I like getting a sense. Like, you can access all these celebrities and stuff by watching their films and get, a kind of view of them portraying somebody. But when you're listening to a podcast, I want to kind of meet you. I want to kind of hear you. And that was his critique. He was like, I feel like this is good for the people who know you, like they get to listen to you and hear as you, meet other people and stuff. But I don't really know what the point is. I said, well, you just said the point. Like the point is that we're all going through shit and we're all trying to figure it out together. And it's raw and it's not structured, and we're trying to get better and better and better. And I don't fucking know where it's going to lead, but that's what pursuing passion is. Like you just do it. And I want to show people it can be dumb. It can be whatever. You never know who's going to value what you have to say in a moment. And that's the point of like putting yourself out there as just a what you perceive to be a normal person who, there's nothing special. And then finding out that there is actually something very special to it. Or when you're not on this planet anymore, what value there's going to be to that moment that you gave yourself to for everyone else. I mean, think about it. That guy who died last night, everything that he has and everything that he put out in the world is now cherished by everyone who knew him, because there's no more. They won't have any more. So that's the point. That's the fucking point. I don't know. Who knows? What else there is? I mean, we're just doing shit. Not for me to make you get it, man.
If you don't want to listen, if you don't got time, then don't listen.
That's right. I mean, it's whatever. So
I've had people do the same thing with me because of the whole YouTube culture and everything. Like, because my podcast is through YouTube, but I've been wanting to put it on other platforms. But yeah, I've heard the same thing where it's like, it's too long. Like, you need to fit it within 30 minutes. I'm like, Jesus, like that's how, what can you even hear out of 30 minutes? Like for me, when I listen to things, if I see that it's 50 minutes long or like, or an hour long or an hour and a half, I'm like, hell yeah. And I get excited listening to those because I like long drives or shower getting ready. I like that.
Yes. Well, that's what I like to listen to is that like, this is all the time where I'm trying to like, I don't know, like I don't want the silence of my own brain because that's, I'm already all in that, that's my life. I want to listen to somebody else and how they're dissecting the world and kind of, I'm not necessarily listening just because I hope to glean some epic. I don't even believe that that's there. It's like Teal Swan. Like, I'm not your fucking guru. Okay. Like, I'm not just this pristine being always like, elevating, as I'm cross-legged in my house, like, at this certain vibration. Yeah. I'm like fucked up, having a thing of pork rinds, like on my chest as I'm like wrapped up in a pillow watching The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Like, that's me. Like, don't think that there's some epic thing here more than that, but I want to know, like, when I'm listening to things that other people are doing it too. Like, it's refreshing and it just makes me feel more connected, like, because I feel weird otherwise.
Yeah. You're like, oh, am I the only person? Okay, I guess I am. But you're definitely not. No. Definitely not. Like, I'm the exact same way with my, like, any podcast or thing that I've ever been on. Or I've always had a very loose layout. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to stick to this and see where it goes,
Right. And plus we have these tools, like they can connect you with so many different kinds of people, of so many different kinds of creeds, sensibilities, everything. Why not? Like, that's what I want. So there is no fucking point. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm living.
I'm fucking living.
I know. That's what I'm doing. I don't know.
Let me do me.
It's all pretty cool, man. Like, I'm happy to be here. I'm
happy you're here.
Yeah, man. Ditto. Well,
namaste.
Yes, exactly. No, I mean, legit, man. Like, namaste, all those good things. God bless, peace, love, granola. Whatever glitter I can throw on it, cherry on top,
I love it.
With that, have a great rest of your evening. And I've been honored by you. And this is really fun. I can't wait we have each other's number now. So I hope that we keep in touch for a long time. We can watch each other grow and touch base. It's going to be really cool.
Yes. And good luck with your work too. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of your work.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I try.
I tried.
That will be on my grave. She tried. That's it. Yeah.
Perfect closing.
I know.
Thank you so much, Amy.
My pleasure. Thank you. This has been amazing. You've given me a lot of your time, and that's awesome.
No problem. And we'll have more in the future too.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the life.
Well, that concludes our interview, but certainly not the lifespan of a phoenix, as we well know. They keep dying and rising. And I'm sure the same will be for Sabrina. Keep in mind that when we did this interview recording, it was the start of Sabrina's journey as an apprentice. She had just landed one and was starting. It was back in February of this year. So she's been up and rolling for quite a time right now, and I hope that everyone checks her out on the social medias and follows her work. She's brilliant, and I really hope that, I know that we're going to see a lot more from this person in the future. Thank you, Sabrina, and thanks, Diary listeners.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is _apprenticeship_diaries. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.